Hey, and welcome to the Meditations and Musings podcast. I'm Elena. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of the Divine Self-Care Circle membership and the Virtual Retreat Academy. I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your body, your health, or your family in order to create true abundance and prosperity. I believe in living based on the divine feminine metrics of success, and these include pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. Each week, I'll bring you 1 to 2 new episodes. One of these will be a guided meditation that you don't have to do on the meditation pillow, and the other will be a conversation to help you access your inner wisdom, to ignite abundance, and inspire others to do the same. I invite you to join me on this journey back to the magic of a divinely aligned and well cared for you. And now, join me for today's episode. Hey, welcome to episode number 13. And it's a lucky episode because we're talking about one of my favorite topics, procrastination. Procrastination, yep, it's one of my favorite topics because it's an opportunity to notice. So we're going to dive deep into procrastination today, and I'm going to share with you some important ways to reframe procrastination in your own life and in your work. And I'm going to share with you what you can do to help yourself move through this really important phase of creation. So first of all, let's start like we always do, which is to define what it is that we're talking about. So procrastination is when you know you're supposed to be doing something, but you're avoiding it. So this could be really applied to anything in your life from, cleaning out the garage to finishing a project to making that phone call that you don't want to make. But today I want to focus on procrastination specifically in the realm of creating your work, whether it is creating an online course or painting that painting or really almost anything creative. Now, if you're in my world, most likely you're an entrepreneur, you're some creative service provider, but I welcome everyone. So if you're listening to this, there's a reason that you're here. And I would consider myself an expert on procrastination, and here's why. I remember even back in my college days, I would wait until the very last possible minute to finish a project. And then all of a sudden, something would pour out of me that was absolutely brilliant and divinely inspired. And so I really considered myself a master of the last minute project, but it didn't always feel so good in my body because I was essentially down on myself. Like I was punishing myself for it because while I was procrastinating, I didn't feel good. I didn't create space for it. I just was like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this again. But somehow I would just repeat that pattern. And so as if you listen to podcasts and you're here in my space, I will consider you a student of life and a student of spirituality. Because if you weren't, I don't think you'd be attracted to meditations and musings podcasts and listening to me talk about the things I love to talk about, which are definitely in the spiritual realm. So in those days when I was procrastinating, I guess I accepted it as part of my personality and I trusted that I can pull something out at the last minute, but it wasn't a process I enjoyed. So just like everything else in my life, I like to reflect and look at it and think about okay, there's times where I don't procrastinate. I just jump right on it and I follow inspiration and I go. And there's other times that I procrastinate. So now that I've had several decades to reflect on why I do things, and I'm in my 42nd year, I love being able to look back and seeing patterns of when I did something that I didn't even have to worry about procrastination, and other times where it just felt like I was pulling teeth, like I was swimming through molasses to get something done. And what I've discovered is that there are certain circumstances where procrastination is not all that bad. And now that I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of women over the years, I've been coaching and creating and in service of, helping other people create their ideal life and be in alignment, I can see patterns emerging. And I think what I found that will be fascinating for you as you start to think about, and you're probably already thinking about those times in your life or situations in your life where procrastination seems to be a partner at all times. And so, first of all, I want to ask you the question, is procrastination bad? I don't think so. I've come to see procrastination in a different lens, in a reframe. And reframing is all about shifting your perspective on procrastination. Not only do I now see procrastination as a possible good thing, I welcome it because it's telling me something. What procrastination is telling me now as an aware adult woman is that there might be something else going on here. There might be something in my intuitive self, something in the divine guidance that I call in that is starting to tell me that there might be something missing here, or that there might be other pieces to this puzzle that I'm not quite ready to put in place. Now, there's a key element that I want you to really understand. Without awareness, procrastination is avoidance. And avoidance usually happens for several reasons, but the main reason is fear. Fear of creating something bad, fear of people not liking it, fear of being judged, fear of success even, which I actually don't really buy, but I know people like to talk about it, which is that fear of success in some way is going to harm you. And I guess I do get that at a soul level. I truly do. But fear can come in many different faces. And so regardless of which one you resonate with, when you're procrastinating because of fear, that's not an aware place to be. That is simply avoidance. So the first phase that I want to bring attention to for you and to really start thinking about, is there something currently in your life that you've been meaning to get done? So for me, I literally was cleaning out my garage yesterday and I found a painting of a butterfly that I started. Now, don't gasp, but I started it 4 years ago. And so that is something that makes me feel like, oh my gosh, why didn't I finish that? And for me, it was just avoidance because finishing it would mean that I have to make certain decisions about color. And for some reason, it became this really important decision for me. And I don't consider myself an artist in the painting realm. I do consider myself artistic and creative in many, many different realms, but painting is sort of this private thing that I do. And so for some reason, I put that painting away and I was just avoiding looking at it for the longest time out of fear of not getting it right. So I can see that. I can see that I was avoiding it and I invite myself to now finish it. But there's other areas of your life that you might be thinking of. It could be some creative pursuit that you are scared of finishing. Now, it's only up to you to know exactly why you're avoiding it. But I would invite you to explore this, even if you just pull out a journal. If you want to hit pause and do that now, if you're feeling inspired, totally go for it. But I invite you to keep listening because there are a couple more elements to procrastination that I think are going to let you see this through a positive lens. Because if I trust that the universe is always guiding me, which I do, if I trust that sometimes that moment of procrastination led me to discover something that I wouldn't have known otherwise, then I can start seeing procrastination from a different lens, through one that is going to benefit me. But we need to make sure we're not in avoidance first, because trusting the universe and knowing that all things happen for a reason is a really cool way of seeing your life, and avoidance does exist. So if you find yourself procrastinating, not moving forward on a project or making a phone call, ask yourself, am I in avoidance or am I just trusting that something else is going on here? And if the answer is that you are in avoidance, don't shy away from it. Don't back away from it. I would say dive head in, grab your journal, grab a pen and say, why am I avoiding this? And just start writing. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes or more, and just allow yourself to start writing why you're avoiding this. Because once you write it down, once you see it, it bursts that big bubble of avoidance hanging over your head. And you start realizing, first of all, I am not alone. Lots of human beings avoid what they need to be doing, want to be doing, dream of doing. If avoidance wasn't a thing, then everyone would be living their most highest achieved life. Everyone would have written the book, painted the painting, taken that trip. But the truth is, you're human and I'm human. Yes, we are spiritual beings having a human journey, and part of navigating that human journey is to realize that we do have some habits that aren't working for us. And so there's a lot of ways we can go about really dealing with this. And you being here on this podcast, I would say, is a great step in the right direction, because you're here to understand that there's other perspectives in life, and that sometimes doing things to really enhance your personal development, like listening to a great podcast, is going to help you see things in a different way. So first of all, give yourself permission to be human. And avoidance is awareness of something that you're scared of. And hey, we all have that fear. You're going to figure out that once you're not alone, and once having fear of something is totally natural, it's not going to have that much weight over you. So the next step is to really understand that procrastination is not just procrastination. Sometimes you are percolating, or if you prefer, gestating. So what's the difference between procrastination and percolation? Well, sometimes that idea that you have is not fully baked. Sometimes there are elements to it that need to come into place. Maybe there's that book that someone recommends that puts another piece into place. Maybe there's a conversation that you have that inspires that new way of seeing something. Now, I would say you can percolate forever if you're avoiding. So it's really important to understand that you can give yourself a certain amount of time to percolate, and know that you're percolating, and really give yourself permission. I'm going to share with you 5 things you can do while you're percolating to make sure that you're moving into taking some aligned and inspired action, because you can stay in percolation forever, right? So we don't want you to do that. We want you to have a period of percolation with aligned, inspired action that you're taking while you're percolating. But I'm going to get to that. Now, in order to percolate successfully, which is a really funny thing to say, it takes a little bit of trust, and it takes a lot of allowing, right? It takes you to understand that while you are percolating and even procrastinating, it's just a matter of how you see it, that you are, in fact, there's part of you that is actually working on that thing. In fact, there's some beautiful studies that show if you practice, for example, an instrument that you're learning how to play before you go to bed, that when you wake up the next morning, your neurology and your synapses and all the little parts of your brain that are doing the work to get you to learn that new thing, you're going to be able to play that instrument much better, like on a huge percentage, the following morning. Why is that? Because there's part of us that you can actually learn and learn and learn when you're conscious of it, and like you're trying to learn that instrument and you're trying to figure it out, but your brain is getting actually tired after an hour, or say maybe an hour that you're practicing, or 40 minutes. Well, there's a point where your learning seriously starts to decline. And this is like, all studies show this. There's a point of learning exhaustion. And so if you just step away and allow your brain to do what it does, which is to absorb all the learning, the next morning when you wake up, you are going to have a much better understanding of what you tried to learn the night before. So the same thing happens when you're trying to create something or do something. You hit this wall of like, your brain is done. Your brain is done creating and figuring something out. So you give yourself time away, whether it's playing or sleeping or watching some show that has nothing to do with what you're doing. But you'll notice that, you know how when you're trying to remember something and you can't in the moment, and then you step away and all of a sudden you're like in the shower and you remember that thing that you've been trying to remember? It's because there's part of you, the subconscious, inner neurology, the inner workings of your being, your brain, are actually working on it. You can give it an assignment to work on it. So perhaps you're working on a creative project where you can't quite figure out what the next step is or how to move forward. If you can just step away from it and give yourself a chance to play or sleep or take a bath or go be outside in nature, your inner workings are going to resolve that for you. But it takes trust to do that. Now, the opposite of trust is pushing through, right? So pushing through is someone who is just like, I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm just going to get this done. And there are definitely times and places to push through and get things done. Maybe you're on a timeline. Maybe there's a deadline that you need to get something to your boss or partner or to your client, whatever that might be. So you might have to be okay with a less than ideal version of what you're trying to create. But if you're a creative person and you're trying to bring forth a new idea or bring forth the outline for the workshop, or you're trying to create something that is beyond your level of comfort, it's going to take you a little bit of trust to know that you do have what it takes. Maybe you've done the research, you've read the books, you've done everything that you need to do, and it's just not coming into place. Well, maybe that's a time to stop pushing through and just step away and let yourself percolate and really trust and allow for the creative process within you to really move forward. And sometimes it takes doing something totally unrelated, like doing a puzzle or going, out and surfing or whatever it might be, to let your brain just rest and bring up the next idea. So you're not avoiding, you're just percolating. That's conscious percolating with allowing and trusting for that thing to come through, that idea to come through, right? So again, just to review a little bit, procrastination does not have to be a bad thing. In fact, what I've learned from my days in college of waiting until the last minute is that unaware procrastination or lack of awareness doesn't feel good in my body, because I can tell that when I was in those classes where those professors forced you to do an outline the first week and forced you to actually stay on the project, I felt so much better. Like I was actually doing something that created a process, and the work that I produced, I would say, was probably on a deeper level, had deeper roots to it. So I really like the idea of creating something as I go versus waiting for the last minute. So those are totally different things. In one case, I was avoiding and procrastinating because of fear or because of, I don't even know what, like I was, a teenager. So I was not in an aware place of my procrastination. Whereas if I procrastinate now, I always start with asking myself that question that I told you to write in your journal and just really feel into it. Am I avoiding this because I'm scared of something? Or what am I avoiding? What am I scared of? And really allow yourself to have that awareness. Now, once you move through that and you're like, well, I'm not really avoiding, I don't feel inspired, or I don't quite feel like I'm in flow. Great. That means that you're percolating. And so the next step to take is to say, okay, great. You know what? I'm going to give myself a day, a week, whatever is relevant to that thing that you're creating. Like if you're writing a book and you really want to get started on the outline, there are some great exercises that you can do. And I'm going to give you 5 ways to really take some inspired, aligned action while you're percolating to help you move through the process of procrastination into aligned creation. So the first thing you can do is get creative with a structure. Okay, get creative with a structure. And here's a great example. I was listening to an interview with, I believe it was maybe Seth Godin. I have to give the right credit, but I have to really, really get focused here. I can't quite remember who it was, but I want to give credit where credit's due. And what he was saying was that he had a mentor years and years ago give him the assignment to write an outline of a book on one page, one yellow pad page. And so what that does, it gives your brain a container to get the idea out. Because if you're like me, and I don't know if you might be, but I tend to ramble. I can ramble on and on and on. I can write on and on and on. But if I have 5 minutes to say something, I'm going to get very, very specific and clear. Even when I produce this podcast, when I think about what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, I know I'm not going to talk for 4 hours, although I could. I want to make this consumable for you so that you're not taking your entire day listening to this. Although there are podcasts that are 3 hours, I'm not one of those. I really want to give you something that you can just take away. So here's a great exercise. Probably maybe even one of the first exercises that you can do if you find yourself procrastinating on some sort of creative project, whether it's a book or planning something or deciding something. Give yourself a very clear container. Say, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes and 1 page to just write an outline. It's not going to be the outline I use. It's going to be an ugly version. It's just going to be the first draft, because so many people don't give themselves permission to have a first draft. Now, all the authors that I've ever heard speak or have spoken to or have interviewed, there's always a first draft. In fact, your publisher requires a bad first draft, right? I mean, one of the biggest permissions that I've given myself is to write a first short bad book. And all of a sudden it becomes playful and easy instead of making myself feel like I have to write the bestseller because, oh my God, I have no idea if anyone's going to even ever read my words. So step one, get creative in a container. So whatever it is that you're procrastinating on, if you really want to make some headway and feel like you're moving forward, grab a piece of paper and a pen. This is really important that you're doing it on a pen. You can do it on your computer, but there's something about the process of writing that gets things flowing. Take one piece of paper and try to contain your project to one page, whether it's drawing a mind map, whether it's creating an outline, whether it's writing a plan. Do it on one page. If the creative juices still aren't flowing, we're going to move on to the next 4 things that you can do while you're percolating. Okay, so you've done your creative draft and you're still stuck. You want to move forward and you're giving yourself time to percolate, which is awesome. The next thing you can do is to declutter. Declutter your physical environment. There is nothing more powerful when it comes to moving energy than to looking around and seeing where you have piles and stuff and junk and things you don't use anymore. That's a huge reason. It's actually a physical manifestation of your inner procrastination. Now, I know this one intimately. In fact, I know that I'm procrastinating when I start seeing piles of things developing around me. Can you relate to that? I know you can because I have coached so many women who have this same exact thing. Now, your pile could be a messy car. It could be a underwear drawer. It could be like whatever your representation is, whatever that thing is that starts to get messy when you're procrastinating, declutter that thing. It's about getting energy moving. So I spent all day yesterday actually decluttering different areas of my home because I knew that I was in procrastination mode. We're starting a whole new school year. We're going to be homeschooling my son. I have a launch coming up. I have lots on my plate. And when that happens, if I'm not conscious of it, I can definitely start developing piles. And I did just that. So I cleared off my desk, my white, beautiful desk. I can see it now. I cleaned it. I cleaned out all the old sage that I've been burning. I cleaned out essential oils. I cleaned out our art area in the garage. So I can actually see things now. I feel so much better and I can feel the energy already moving creatively. So declutter at least one physical space, even if it's just a drawer, but I invite you to put on some music and really enjoy the process. If you need some guidance, there's so many great videos and books out there on feng shui and declutter, but you know what to do. I trust you. All you need to do is look around and start noticing where are there piles of things that need to move. Like actually right now I have a pile of folded laundry on my couch that's been sitting there since last night. And I know as soon as I'm done with this, I'm clearing that out because I just feel the need for simplicity around me right now because I have so much on my plate. Okay, that's 2. So the first thing was get creative within a container. The second thing was declutter some physical external space. The third thing that you can do while you're percolating or procrastinating is to get physical. So much of what we tend to do is want to do more. When we're stuck, we want to just push through and I'm just going to do more. I'm going to watch another video. I'm going to read another book. But that's not always the answer. Maybe it is sometimes, but if you can just get out of your head and into your body, whether it's dancing or going for a walk or doing some sun salutations for yoga, whatever your version of getting physical is and getting sweaty, go do that. Because when you're in your head, there's only so much you can fit in there. We only have a finite resource of willpower and creativity in our mind, but our body can move things out. It can detox, it can sweat, it can laugh, it can cry. All these things are ways of moving energy in your body and helping you to feel like you're moving through an aligned, inspired way while you're percolating, not procrastinating, right? Or you are procrastinating, but you're percolating it through you. So you don't just sit and wait for inspiration to come. No, you want to go and ignite it. You want to activate that spark. And one of the most profound ways to do that, and this is one of the basic tenets of what I teach, is embodiment, moving your body. If you want to get creative, put on a song, put on your favorite song and just dance, dance, dance. Get it out. Remember, dance like no one's watching. I know you've heard that before because there's something about moving your body, whether it's taking a walk or dancing or yoga, that starts to get the creative juices flowing, literally and physically. right? I've actually read some beautiful books on writers. Obviously, as you can tell, there's a theme here. I love writing and speaking. But so many writers have a practice of walking. Some of them walk for hours every day where they just think and mull over ideas or look out in nature, and they know that while they're moving, that things are clearing, that ideas are moving, that things plop in that you would have never seen before. Sometimes you would even get inspired by something that you're looking at, whether you're walking at a beach or in a forest or in a city, whatever it is. Getting moving, getting walking, getting dancing is probably one of the most profound ways to percolate on purpose. So go ahead and do that. Now, number 4 is to clear your mind. Clear your mind. When you have so much in your mind, like I do right now, it is so important for me and for you to create some clarity in your mind. Now, all the things that I've already said so far are ways to clear your mind, but a really important way to clear your mind is to not put new content in. So I'm laughing because I can tell I hit a point where I can't even listen to one more podcast, no more books. I just got on this total detox because I'm a consumer of information. I love to learn things and to teach them. And we're really in this time in our lives, in the universe, in our political and technical abilities to consume so much. And sometimes all it does is feed your fear. Sometimes all it does is add another thing to do in your mind that you're not going to do. So there's a beautiful pattern of learning and putting new information into your mind and your body and your consciousness. But at some point it becomes a lot, right? You just have so much in there. So what I would invite you to do, this is the 4th thing you can do when you're percolating, is to go on a detox. Stop listening to podcasts. Of course, I know you're here listening to this podcast, so it's ironic that I'm telling you to do this, but there is a time where listening to someone else's voice is just too much. So stop reading the book, stop listening to podcasts, stop watching the news, even if it's for an afternoon, and just give yourself some time to hear your own voice. When I do this, I always carry a journal with me because eventually it's like you're going so fast. When you stop, things just come out. All of a sudden you're remembering memories from 5 years ago, 20 years ago, thinking about the future, all kinds of stuff is happening. And so you want to start to process it or just journal it or even capture it in a tape recorder, not a tape recorder. I just totally dated myself. There's all kinds of apps where you can record things if you want to, or you can just let it go. You can just let it flow. You can just create some quiet. Now, if you have a house full of people, you might have to leave your house to get quiet, or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to take a bath without a podcast, without the computer, without an iPad, without your phone, and just be there for 20, 30 minutes where you're just enjoying the quiet. Yeah, you can totally do that. Okay, so far we've had 4 things you can do to stay inspired and aligned while you're percolating. You can get creative within a container like that one page. You can declutter your physical environment. You can get physical, move that beautiful body of yours and let the creative juices flow. Number 4 is you can clear your mind by going on a detox of information. No more. And the 5th thing you can do is to create space for inspiration. Create sacred space for inspiration. So what does that mean? So a lot of times we sort of just do the work meaning writing or painting or creating or drawing, whatever it is. We just kind of do it where we are, and we don't think that the space around us affects the work. So when I was creating my office, knowing that I'm going to be recording videos in here, recording podcasts, doing writing, I created it very consciously, from the paint on the walls to the mandala that's behind me on the wall to the crystals that I have and the statue of Lakshmi. All these things were very, very conscious. When I start seeing piles in my office, I know I'm in procrastination and I'm in avoidance. So I go through my list that I'm sharing with you. But to create a sacred space for your work is really a powerful practice to have. So if you decide that you're going to just work on the dining room table, and there's a bunch of clutter on there, then your work is going to reflect what you're looking at and the energy that you're in. Again, we are energetic beings. We're vibration. So if we are, you have to decide where you like to work. So sometimes when I write, I like to be in a busy coffee shop with headphones on. For some reason, being around all that energy of other people doing things allows me to tap into that, and I just flow, just write. I can just write. But when I'm recording my podcast or I'm recording my videos or doing something for my work, I like to be in my office where I've created sacred space, and I like to really tap into that. I always sit down, take some time to put my feet on the ground, make some notes. I have my lemon water. I'm inspired in here. I'm inspired to be the best me that I can be. If I just did it like in the living room with, things around me and like my son coming in and out, it wouldn't come through the same way. So the fifth thing that you can do when you are percolating to stay aligned and inspired is to create a sacred space for inspiration to show up. Now, this could be just as simple as a little, corner with an altar table in your bedroom, or maybe you have a space near you outside in nature where you feel like you just go with your journal and the inspiration just flows. For me, nature is a huge inspiration. So when I write, I particularly go to this one coffee shop near the water where I can sit and actually see the water when I'm writing. So I found my inspired sacred space. And sometimes if I feel frustrated or I just need to be alone, I'll just go there and grab my journal and start writing because I feel like I need to just get something out. And I do. So what is it for you? Like, what's that sacred space for you where you feel inspired? Even if it's just as simple as some time to journal and ask yourself the question, what am I avoiding, right? So just to quickly review, when you're finding yourself procrastinating, meaning not moving forward on something that you really want to do, you ask yourself, what am I avoiding? Am I scared? What am I scared of? And the next thing you do is you trust. You trust. Once you've eliminated the avoidance of fear, or at least acknowledged it, you start to go into a place of allowing and trusting that now I am percolating. And I wonder, you can ask yourself this question, I wonder what I'm going to be inspired by. I wonder what the missing piece is, because I have had so many situations where I am avoiding something or procrastinating and I realize I'm percolating, and then within a day or two or three or even a week, something comes in that gives me that final piece, that inspiration, whether it's from an outside source or whether it's from a book I read, or even sometimes watching some movie that has nothing to do with what I'm working on. And I get that last piece of inspiration that I needed. So I go into this allowing, trusting phase instead of pushing through. I just take a deep breath and I look for that place of ease. And ease is one of my feminine metrics of success. So that's how I want to feel. I want to feel at ease. I don't want to feel like I'm pushing through and creating something. I want to feel like it's inspired. Okay? And then finally, the 5 things you can do while you're percolating to stay inspired and aligned are, number 1, get creative with a container, right? So like that one page outline. The second thing is to declutter your physical space. The third thing is to get moving, get physical. The fourth thing is to clear your mind by going on an information detox. No more input, no more input. And the final thing is to create sacred space for inspiration to arrive, whether it's sitting in nature, whether it's somewhere in your home, or that newly decluttered space that you want to sit in, whatever it is, somewhere that you can feel inspired, whether it's even connected to the project you're working on or not, it's a place that puts you into inspiration mode. So let's all take a deep breath, and thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I hope that you are walking away with a new way to see procrastination, at least questioning yourself. Am I avoiding something? Or am I going to allow and trust that I am percolating? So cheers to your percolation and trusting that you are creating something beautiful, aligned, and inspired, and giving yourself the tools to percolate in divine style. This is Elena Lipson, and I can't wait to see you next time on the Meditations and Musings podcast. Have a blessed and divine day. Thank you so much for listening and learning about the new divine self-care way of being in your life, business, and the bedroom based on the divine feminine metrics of success: pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. If you're ready to bust the myth of overwhelm and tap into an inspired start to each day, I've put together a free video series for you to help you start each day with energy, inspiration, and ignite that inner pilot light which attracts joy, magic, and synchronicity. You can access my 3-step magic morning practice to help you ignite your inner light and attract the abundance that you're craving. Head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would so love if you share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, and please leave a review. That is how the magic starts to ripple out. Here's wishing you a day full of beauty, magic, and divine self-care. I'll see you next time at the Meditations and Musings podcast.